buy this car and you drive it in comfort mode and automatic and all that, you bought the wrong car. This Huracan 582 is spec'd in a Grigio Lynx with Nero interior with this contrast orange stitching. I gotta say, I really like this combo over here. I never thought I'd like orange and black together, but that looks fantastic. Kind of reminds me of the Knicks' alternate jersey colors. I really like it a lot. Getting into a Huracan, you've probably seen a lot, but it's got one of these that a lot of cars these days have, sports cars especially, like GTRs and F-types, etc. Huracan interiors have always been a great place to be. Build quality has always been really high. You have a derivative of the Audi MMI system over here that controls the infotainment up there. Later model Huracans, the Evos, I believe 2021 for the US market, they got a whole touchscreen in the middle, so it replaced all this, which I know a lot of people found to be a little controversial because earlier Huracan owners were a little disappointed by this center stack over here, the center console. Nonetheless, you essentially do get very similar features between an Evo and a non-Evo. I actually know some people that prefer this as well. And overall, you have a, I hate to say it, but you have a better interior here than compared to something like a 458 or a 488 Ferrari. Your stop start button is this, kind of like a jet fighter, as everyone knows, but you can also just kind of, if you have skinny enough fingers like I do, you can just press it like that. You have your drive mode select. You got your parking brake right here. You have a very measly, tiny little glove compartment that, I don't know, can maybe fit 6 napkins. You've got these rocker switches that control your windows, your ride height in the front, your front nose lift, ESC off, your hazards, parking sensors on or off, and then your automatic start stop is right there. Your drive modes are selected through here. You scroll through the menus using this, and your turn signal is a single button right here. It's a single switch. It's a toggle that goes left or right. That can get a little annoying, especially if you prefer to drive with one hand over the other. Whereas on a Ferrari, you have 2 individual buttons, right and left. Otherwise, you have other controls that are on the steering wheel. Overall, the steering wheel is really nice. I've always enjoyed Lamborghini interiors. This is not the first time I've been in one. My older brother has a Performante, and I really enjoy driving that car. I think it's an overall great platform. If you're the type of person who's concerned about trunk space, or in this case, frunk space, in an exotic supercar, well, maybe the Huracan might not be the best car for you. It has about 4 cubic feet, which is similar to the R8. It's not a very big trunk. You've had a lot of room kind of lost over here on the sides. Maybe even less than 4 cubic feet. I know the R8 for sure has 4 cubic feet, but yeah, not the biggest trunk in the world. You could probably fit 1 small carry-on in here, if that's your thing. You could probably go away for a weekend, but you'd have to pack a little light. I think the most important thing to note about a Huracan Spider is this right here. And this is my favorite part of the Spider, are these fairings, essentially. These little humps. The Huracan Spider is very, very aggressive looking, far more aggressive looking, to me at least, than the R8 Spider. And I think the fairings up there, right behind the seat, have a lot to do with that. The rear end slopes downward as opposed to being almost completely flat like it is on the R8. The R8 has some, it's not totally flat, but it has some of that aggression, but not quite as much as the Huracan. I think Lamborghini's done an overall better job at executing a really beautiful looking Spider. Now, I had an R8 Spider, and it always did kind of bother me when the top was up or down. With the top up, it looked a little frumpy. With the top down, I thought the rear end looked a little too flat. And I think Lamborghini's kind of hit the perfect, the sweet spot. It just, all you have missing is this little area. You still have this. and I just think the car looks beautiful, and I love these wheels. These almost look like the quintessential hollow spoke, 5-spoke wheels. They remind me of the old Diablo wheels. I really do think this is almost the quintessential Lamborghini design over here. And I love these orange calipers. It goes with that orange contrast theme inside the car. This Grigio Lynx is beautiful. I love it. I think it's subtle enough to fit and kind of blend in traffic, but then the rest of the car is just so aggressive, and it's so wedge-shaped in the front. I mean, you just know it's a Lamborghini. You'll never mistake this for anything else. You'll never mistake it for that, or a McLaren, for example, or that, or that. So, I just think that really there's never been a bad-looking Lamborghini. All right, driving the Huracan Spider 580-2. This is the rear-wheel drive car with 572 horsepower. I put the top up for the sake of not blasting the mic. We're driving it in manual mode, the way that a Huracan's meant to be driven. Please ask anyone who buys a supercar, don't drive these things in automatic. You're kind of meant to shift gears on these cars. That's why they give you these amazing transmissions, the dual clutches and such. Dual clutches have gotten to such a point. In fact, any automatic transmission has gotten to such a point where it's almost more enjoyable to shift them yourself. And again, this little turn signal thing is so weird. You're looking for the turn signal, there's other buttons around it, then you gotta cancel it by pressing it again. What's going on? Oh, you press into it. Paddles are massive, just like a Ferrari. In fact, they're maybe a little bit tinier, maybe a little smaller than the 296 that I just recently drove, but still huge. You shouldn't be able to miss them. You've got your oil, you've got readouts over here. You've got your oil pressure, oil temperature, battery voltage, beautiful high-res display up front. This is, again, as I had mentioned, your essentially your MMI is utilized here. You've got all your audio, your radio, your navigation's in here as well. I'm driving in sport mode. I don't really want to put it into Corsa. I'm kind of not going to be ripping on it that aggressively. And again, I said before, I've driven a regular Huracan before, and I've driven a Performante before. My brother's had both. He had he was one of the first, like maybe in New York, who had a Huracan back in 2015, I want to say. So I've driven that car before. I had an R8 V10 Spider. I enjoyed it. Unfortunately, mine was the Spider. The R8s were a little too heavy, and I had the R-Tronic, which was a single clutch. It was not as, I don't know. It just, those single clutch transmissions, the E-gears and the R-Tronics were not. How do I put this? I always felt every time the car shifted, I always felt something was going to break. It shifted well enough, and you always kind of had to let off the throttle. But every time it would get back on power, it really felt like something was going to break. The first gear would buck. I had clutch adaptations done. The clutch was in good shape. We measured all that stuff, but it just never felt confident. And eventually, kind of in stop and go traffic. We have stop and go traffic in the Central Florida area these days, thanks to all the New Yorkers and people from Jersey and such who moved down here during the pandemic. We have pretty good traffic nowadays here. So as I had mentioned before, 572 horsepower on the rear-wheel drive cars, 398 pound-feet of torque. So the rear-wheel cars get slightly detuned in both horsepower, 30 horsepower less than a regular Huracan 610, and 15 pound-feet less torque as well. So let's shake this car down a little bit. Yeah, but the power's still great, and the exhaust still sounds amazing. I think this era of automobiles will go down as the last hurrah for engines like this. V10. Some people don't find the Audi Lamborghini V10 to be as characteristic, should I say, as other V10s that are really more about wailing and high-pitched frequencies. But this still sounds amazing. Anybody who says otherwise, maybe they're just kind of hating a little bit. Not all V10s have to sound like Formula One cars or Carrera GTs or LFAs. It'd be nice if they did, but they don't all have to sound the same. They really don't. And this V10 here has a very distinct sound, and I really, really like it. We're gonna look back on this era, and we're gonna miss these engines, because this is the last hurrah for engines like this. The ride in Sport, almost forgot what mode I was in. The ride in Sport is pretty good. It's not too punishing. I've got some stuff in here, some equipment that might flail around. It might not be 296 fast, but you don't really need all that power to have a lot of fun in a car like this. Huracan is what it is. It's the Huracan is what it is. It's a little bit of a GT car. It's an enthusiast car. It's a performance car. It's a sports car. It's, you know, all of these driving modes really do give you a lot of different experiences. You know, you could put it into, let's go to Strada, street, just daily driving it. Let's see, kind of going here. It's a little bumpy of a road. Let's hit a little pothole here. It's fine. Audi's done, well, Lamborghini and Audi have done such a great job in calibrating these cars so that you really can enjoy them on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. So in street mode, perfectly comfortable. It really dampens a lot of the vibration, impacts from the road. But I think the fun part is really in Sport and Corsa. So let's just stick to that. If you buy this car and you drive it in comfort mode and automatic and all that, you bought the wrong car. Yeah. And I'm not saying you have to drive this car like an a-hole all the time, but you've got to enjoy it. And if you have the opportunity to, and the moments arise, you've got an on-way, if you've got an entrance to a highway, you've got an on-ramp, you know, don't do it in automatic. Don't do it in comfort mode. If you live in an area with bad roads, by all means use the comfort mode. Otherwise, these cars are just too good. And I have to say that, personally speaking, this is just my personal opinion, I actually think the rear wheel cars are better than the all-wheel cars. The all-wheel drive cars, which you would note, they say dash 4. Anything with a dash 4 in Lamborghini means all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. They're better. The rear-wheel drive cars are just better. They're livelier. They don't understeer. And I've never had the ability to push one on a track, but just the simple nature of the simple nature of all-wheel drive cars is they will have a tendency to understeer. Rear-wheel cars, they're happier. The tail likes to wag a little bit. And not that I'm saying you should be going drifting, but you know, the steering, the front wheels are meant to steer. They're not meant to drive. As a result, you get a little bit more feedback in the steering compared to, you know, your standard Huracan like a 610-4. sound. It's like an LS. An LS had a baby with an Italian supercar engine, and you get that mixture of a wail and growl, and it's one of the all-time greats. This is really going to go down as one of the all-time great engines of the 2000s, and it's incredible to think that this engine's been around, approaching now, let's see, 2007. So we're getting there, approaching 2 decades. By the time the Huracans are phased out, we'll probably be there. We'll probably be at the 20-year mark. But going back to what I was saying earlier on about the rear-wheel cars, see, the cool thing about Lamborghinis and Audis, obviously the Huracan and the R8, is that you can tune these cars to restore all the power that was meant for them to begin with. So in other words, you buy a 580-2 like this, and you go and you get a tune from a reputable tuner, and you can get the full 640 from the Performante or the STO. And I think that's awesome. You save thousands, I mean, not thousands, tens of thousands, in some cases, hundreds of thousands, because, you know, an STO's premium over this is insane. Granted, you get a lot more aero work, you get a different look, etc. But if it's the horsepower that you're chasing and you want a Performante, you want a 610, you can skip that. You really can. If the speed and the straight line performance is really what you're after, you can get one of these for almost under 200 grand. And I think it's a bargain. And for about 4,000 or 5,000, you can get a tune, and you'll get the full 640 horsepower. Now you can't beat that. 640 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, a lighter vehicle because you don't have to deal with a front drive shaft, front axles, etc. You can't beat that. It's a bargain. So, there you have it. The rear-wheel drive Huracan 580-2 is a supercar bargain. Who would have thought? I think this is one of the best bang for your buck exotic cars on the market. It's a perfectly balanced and well-rounded supercar, and it does just about everything right. It's tight on cargo, sure, but it's highly usable as a daily driver and, at the same time, as a track companion. There's a lot of potential left on the table for tuners out there, including myself. And with prices dropping below the 200 grand mark, this is a fantastic value. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I'll be driving more cars and posting more reviews in addition to some other unique content. Thank you for watching.